When people hear lifestyle habits that may cause cancer, what comes to mind first? If you thought of cigarettes or drinking too much alcohol, you are absolutely right. I think most people would answer that way. But what if a habit you believe is healthy was actually a hidden cancer risk? What if something you assume has nothing to do with cancer was quietly increasing your risk? Wouldn't you regret finding out too late? Recently, a woman in her 60s named Margaret came to my clinic. Margaret was very health conscious. She often talked with me about what she ate and how she exercised each day. But somewhere along the way, Margaret had come to believe that drinking black tea while it was extremely hot was good for her health. She told me she liked having sweet cake or dessert after meals with a steaming hot cup of tea. So I asked her, "If you drink it that hot, doesn't it burn you?" She said, "Yes, at first I used to burn myself pretty often. In fact, drinks hot enough to burn, you can clearly raise the risk of esophageal cancer." Margaret was stunned. She said, "I thought I was warming my body and doing something good for my health." And this is not the only example. Women who cook in kitchens filled with oil smoke may have a higher risk of lung cancer. There really are surprising lifestyle habits linked to cancer risk. So, in today's video, you will learn about these hidden cancer risks. I will also introduce studies showing that certain foods may help lower cancer risk. Please listen closely so you can reduce your cancer risk and build a body that is harder for cancer to develop in. Before we begin, if you care about maintaining your health, staying flexible, and living peacefully in your later years, please consider subscribing to the channel. Here you'll gradually discover small but important things that can help your body feel healthier every day. Things you may have never noticed before. Thank you so much. Now let's begin with the first part. Why can ordinary daily habits become cancer risks in the first place? Please listen to this basic idea for a moment. Once you understand this part, the sections that come after it will make much more sense. Our bodies are made of an astonishing 37 trillion cells. These cells are constantly being renewed. Old cells die, and new cells are made inside the body, almost like products being made in a factory. Every day, that factory keeps working through a process called cell division, replacing worn-out cells with fresh new ones. Think of it this way. Inside that factory, there is a copy machine. That copy machine keeps copying the information from one cell and passing it on to the next new cell. That is the image I want you to hold in your mind. But copy machines do not always work perfectly, do they? Sometimes the ink runs out. Sometimes a color copy suddenly comes out in black and white. Sometimes the paper jams. Believe it or not, similar copying mistakes can sometimes happen inside our bodies too. When those mistakes become serious, that is where cancer can begin. When the mistake is small, the body usually has a system that checks for it. In most cases, cells born with errors are destroyed and removed before they become a problem. But if one of those damaged cells somehow survives and then keeps multiplying again and again, that growing group of abnormal cells is what we call cancer. In fact, it is said that our bodies may produce as many as 5,000 abnormal cells every day. That sounds frightening, doesn't it? But those 5,000 cells are usually destroyed by the body's cancer checking system. That is why people do not develop cancer every single day. The human body is truly remarkable. So why do some people become more vulnerable to cancer? One reason is that certain lifestyle habits can make these copying mistakes happen more often. And when copying mistakes happen more frequently, the chance that one abnormal cell survives as a cancer cell becomes higher. Think about the drain in your kitchen sink. When grease food scraps and grime keep building up, the water slowly stops flowing well. The body can work in a similar way. When unhealthy habits build up over time, little by little, those copying error scraps begin to accumulate. Cells become damaged. And as that damage builds, cancer risk can rise. When you understand it this way, doesn't it become easier to remember? And that is not the only issue. A lack of sleep and a high-stress lifestyle can exhaust the immune system. which is like the body's security guard. When that security guard becomes tired, it may not patrol as well. And when it does not patrol well, the risk of missing abnormal cells may increase. So, what am I really trying to say here? Cancer does not always come from doing one specific thing one time. More often, it can develop through the buildup of daily habits over many years. Cancer may feel like a disaster that suddenly arrives one day, but without fear of being misunderstood, it also has a strong lifestyle-related side. In other words, cancer can appear as the final result of risks that have slowly accumulated in your everyday life. Of course, this does not explain every case, but this side of cancer is very important to understand. And the other side of that message is hopeful. If lifestyle habits can raise cancer risk, then lifestyle habits can also help lower it. That is why I want you to listen with courage today. Next, in the second part, we will finally look at the 5 worst unexpected daily habits that may increase cancer risk. The first unexpected lifestyle habit that may raise cancer risk is being too thin. Some of you may be thinking, weight isn't being overweight, the cancer risk. And yes, that is true too. Being overweight can increase the risk of breast cancer, but interestingly, research has also reported that being too thin may raise certain cancer-related risks. In a study conducted by Japan's National Cancer Center, men with a BMI of 21 or lower had more cancer-related deaths than men in the average BMI range of 23 to 25. Now, the important point here is this. We cannot simply say that thin people are more likely to get cancer, but researchers believe that being too thin may weaken immune function, which may increase the risk of dying from cancer once it develops. Think about people around you who are extremely thin. Have you ever noticed that some of them seem to catch colds more easily, or after they get sick, their body takes longer to bounce back? Some people reduce their food intake and push themselves hard with exercise because they think they are doing it for their health. But without realizing it, they may become too thin. Paying attention to your weight is a wonderful thing, but staying within a healthy range matters just as much. In order to preserve your strength if you ever face cancer, it may be wise to avoid letting your BMI fall below 21 when possible. BMI does not have to be complicated. The easiest way is to use a free BMI calculator online. Just enter your height and weight, and it will show your number right away. But if you want to understand the basic formula, here it is. In the United States, BMI is calculated by taking your weight in pounds, multiplying it by 73, then dividing it by your height in inches, and dividing it one more time by that same height in inches. For example, if someone weighs 132 lb and is 5'3" and tall, that means their height is 63 in. You take 132,703, then divide by 63 and divide by 63 again. The result is about 23.4. That is the BMI number. The second unexpected lifestyle habit that may raise cancer risk is stir-frying or deep frying in a poorly ventilated kitchen. Many people may hear this and think, I had no idea. I especially want women who cook every day to hear this carefully. The oil fumes that come out during cooking, especially the slightly dark smoke that rises when oil is heated, may increase the risk of lung cancer in women who do not smoke. This has been pointed out in several studies. According to a meta-analysis conducted in China, which gathered multiple studies together, non-smoking women who cooked without using proper ventilation had a risk of lung cancer that was about 2.1 times higher than those who used a ventilation fan. Isn't that surprising? So why is that smoke such a problem? When oil is heated at high temperatures, the fumes can contain harmful substances such as PM2.5 and pH, which stands for polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons. These are substances that may include cancer-causing compounds. Breathing them in every day may raise the risk of lung cancer over time. This is not simply a matter of saying, my stove is electric, so I am safe. The real issue is breathing in oil smoke itself. That is why it is so important to cook under a working range hood. Turn on the exhaust fan, open a window when needed, and avoid breathing the smoke directly. This may not happen at every restaurant, of course, but if you often eat at places where food is stir-fried over very high heat with lots of dark smoke and poor ventilation, that may be a habit worth paying attention to. Checking whether a restaurant is properly ventilated may be one small but important way to protect your body. If you just thought I did not know that or that was surprisingly useful, I would truly appreciate it if you gave this video a like and subscribe to the channel. The third unexpected lifestyle habit that may raise cancer risk is accidentally getting too much sunburn. Most of us get some sun in the summer, don't we? I go for walks myself, so I know how easy it is to get a little sun without even thinking about it. Many people are careful about sunscreen during the hottest months, but once spring or fall comes around, it is easy to let that protection slide. The truth is, getting too much sunburn can also be a lifestyle habit that raises cancer risk. The kind that is especially concerning is called a sunburn. This means your skin gets hit with strong sunlight all at once, turns bright red, stings badly, and in some cases even forms blisters. That kind of intense burn is considered especially dangerous. According to one study, people who had 5 or more blistering sunburns over their lifetime had about twice the risk of developing malignant melanoma, one of the most dangerous forms of skin cancer, compared with people who did not. Just 5 times, and the risk was about 2 times higher. That is a serious number, isn't it? Think back to childhood. Did you ever go to the community pool, the beach, or a summer barbecue without putting on enough sunscreen, then wake up the next day with your skin peeling badly? That kind of severe sunburn is exactly what we need to be careful about. If you listen to the first part, it should be easier to understand why skin cancer risk can rise. When the skin burns and peels, the body has to rush to make new skin, almost like an emergency repair job. Sunlight itself is also said to damage DNA. So, the skin barrier is injured, the DNA takes damage, and the body hurriedly copies information to create new cells. During that process, cancer cells may be more likely to appear. Please do not think I am already older, so sun protection does not matter anymore. Age does not change this basic rule. On days when the sun is strong, please make sure to use sunscreen. At the same time, getting an appropriate amount of sunlight is also important. Why? Because when we receive sunlight, our skin can produce vitamin D. So, the key is not to avoid the sun completely. The key is to get sunlight in a healthy way while preventing the kind of burn that damages your skin. I have made a past video explaining how much sunlight may be appropriate and why vitamin D matters, so please check the description if you would like to learn more. The fourth unexpected lifestyle habit that may raise cancer risk is eating or drinking things that are too hot. We talked about this at the beginning, didn't we? Taking in extremely hot food or drinks can actually burn the delicate lining of the throat and esophagus. And when we talk about burns, it is similar to what we just discussed with severe sunburn. When you think about the reason behind it, you start to develop your own judgment. You can begin to ask, is this the kind of habit that might make cancer more likely? Or does this health information sound a little questionable? That is why, even though it can be difficult, I always try to explain the reason behind the warning. We live in an age overflowing with information. Incorrect health advice spreads every day. I do not want you to grab the wrong information and regret it later. So let's learn the reasons together in a way that feels clear and useful. Hot tea or hot soup can taste wonderful when you blow on it and sip it slowly. I understand that completely. But as I mentioned earlier, data shows that habitually drinking beverages above about 149 degree F may raise the risk of esophageal cancer by about 2 times. The World Health Organization and the International Agency for Research on Cancer have also raised concerns about very hot beverages. So, how hot is 149 degree F? Here is an easy way to picture it for an American audience. Think of a fresh cup of coffee or tea served very hot at a cafe, the kind you can barely hold or sip right away. If you let it cool a little first, that is one thing. But if you drink it immediately while it is still scalding hot, you may be raising the risk to your esophagus. By now, I think you understand why this can be dangerous. Very hot drinks can burn the esophagus. When that burn happens, the DNA, which is like the blueprint of your cells, may be damaged. Then the body has to rush to repair and replace those cells. During that rushed repair process, copying mistakes may happen more easily, and cancer cells may be more likely to appear. So if you drink hot water tea or soup because you believe it is good for your body, please be careful not to drink it while it is scalding. Warm is fine, slightly cooled is fine, but if you are regularly drinking things while they are burning hot, that habit may be doing the opposite of what you intended. Please keep that in mind. The fifth unexpected lifestyle habit that may raise cancer risk is eating too many ultra-processed foods. Have you heard the term ultra-processed foods before? I have been talking about this topic many times recently, and there is a reason for that. It is that important. Ultra-processed foods are simply put industrially made foods packed with preservatives, coloring agents, artificial sweeteners, flavor enhancers, and all kinds of additives. Examples include packaged pastries, sweet breakfast cereals, instant noodles, hot dogs, deli meats, sugary sodas, sweet juices, snack foods, and mass-reduced ice cream. When you hear a list like that, you may think then, what am I supposed to eat? I understand that feeling. But unfortunately, this is something we cannot ignore. The goal is not to quit everything overnight. It is to hold back on one item, choose something different today, and slowly change one habit at a time. For example, when life gets busy, many people fall into a pattern like grabbing a packaged pastry for breakfast and eating instant noodles for lunch. I used to understand that kind of routine very well. If stopping both is too hard, then maybe breakfast stays simple for now. But for lunch, you try bringing an easy homemade meal. Please try changing just one habit first. So, what makes ultra-processed foods so concerning? A large study conducted in France followed about 100,000 people. The results showed that for every 10% increase in the share of ultra-processed foods in a person's daily diet, the overall risk of cancer rose by about 12%. Just a 10% increase in ultra-processed foods. Think about that. If you replace the water you usually drink with breakfast with a sugary juice or soda, that alone can raise the ultra-processed share of your day by around 10%. When you look at it that way, you can see why this matters. Now, what exactly is bad about ultra-processed foods? The frightening thing is that it is not just one single ingredient. It is the overall combination that may raise cancer risk. First, many of these foods are low in nutrition but high in calories, making weight gain more likely. Second, many food additives may disrupt the balance of gut bacteria and contribute to chronic inflammation throughout the body. Third, some products may form cancer-causing substances during high-temperature industrial processing. Of course, this does not apply equally to every single product. Some items may fit one problem while others may not. But when these factors pile up together, researchers believe they may raise overall cancer risk. Instant noodles, packaged pastries, sweet drinks, and snack foods are easy, convenient, and tasty. But behind that convenience, there may be a larger hidden risk. I hope you will keep that in the back of your mind. The second part was a little frightening. So in the third part, let's shift into something more positive and encouraging. There are actually foods that may help support the body's resistance against cancer in a scientific way. Today, along with some interesting research, I will introduce 5 foods that may help lower cancer risk. The first food that may help lower cancer risk is coffee. Coffee is something many people drink every day, and surprisingly, it may help lower the risk of a certain type of cancer. Which cancer is that? It is liver cancer. Some people may still have the impression that coffee is bad for the body, but research has shown a different side. According to a large meta-analysis, which means a study that gathered and reviewed many previous studies, drinking 2 cups of coffee a day was associated with about a 27% lower risk of liver cancer. That is an interesting finding, isn't it? Now, if you understand why coffee may lower the risk of liver cancer, it becomes much easier to remember. Coffee contains caffeine and a type of polyphenol called chlorogenic acid. These compounds may help reduce the buildup of fat in the liver. And when fat builds up in the liver, inflammation can occur by helping reduce that inflammation. Coffee may help protect liver cells from repeated damage. This connects to what we discussed in the first part. When inflammation is lower, DNA may be less likely to be damaged, and when damaged cells do not need to be repaired over and over again, the chance of copying mistakes may also decrease. That may be one reason coffee is linked to a lower risk of liver cancer. In other words, because coffee may help prevent fat from building up in the liver, it may also have a good effect on fatty liver. Of course, you still need to be careful with caffeine. I usually tell people to keep it to about 3 to 4 cups a day at most, but some people feel their heart race after caffeine. People with heart disease, people being treated for mental health conditions, and pregnant women need to be especially careful. So, please talk with your doctor and decide how much coffee is right for you. In the United States, fatty liver is also becoming very common, and fatty liver is a risk factor for liver cancer. The second food that may help lower cancer risk is soy-based foods. In Japan, soy is everywhere. You see it in tofu, natto, miso, and many everyday meals. For an American audience, you may know it better through tofu, edamame, soy, milk, tempeh, or miso soup. And this simple bean may have some very meaningful health benefits. This may be especially good news for women. Soy contains compounds called soy isoflavone, and some research suggests they may help lower the risk of breast cancer in studies focused on Asian populations. The group with the highest intake of isoflavones had up to about a 29% lower risk of breast cancer compared with the group that consumed the least. Now, why might soy isoflavone matter for cancer risk? Some of you who study health may already know this. Soy isoflavone have a structure that is somewhat similar to estrogen, one of the main female hormones. Because of that, they may act in a similar place in the body but in a gentler way. Here is the image I want you to have. Normally, estrogen attaches to certain receptors in the body, but when soy isoflavones are present, they may attach to some of those receptors instead. As women get older, female hormone levels gradually decline. When soy isoflavones fit into those receptors, they may help block some of the signals that encourage certain cells to grow in an unhealthy direction. That is one possible explanation researchers have discussed. So, how much should you eat in a day? A general guide is about 20 milligrams of isoflavones per day. That is not a huge amount. It may be around a modest serving of tofu, or in a more American diet, a serving of edamame soy milk or tempeh. So why not try adding one soy-based food to your day? And that is not the only possible benefit. Menopause usually comes during the 40s or 50s when female hormone levels begin to drop. Some studies suggest soy isoflavones may also help with certain menopausal symptoms such as sweating, shakiness, mood changes, or irritability. So, please consider making soy foods a regular part of your diet. I have also made a past video about menopause, so please check the description if you would like to learn more. The third food group that may help lower cancer risk is whole grains and dietary fiber. I may have said this so many times on this channel that you are tired of hearing it, but whole grains really are that important. The good thing is you do not have to change your entire diet to start adding them. You can begin simply by changing a little of the rice bread or breakfast foods you already eat every day. Examples include barley, brown rice, oatmeal, and whole grain bread. These are all easy ways to bring more whole grains into your meals. According to a report from the World Cancer Research Fund, people who ate about 90 grams of whole grains per day, measured in their dry form, had about a 17% lower risk of colorectal cancer. So why would whole grains help? Whole grains are rich in dietary fiber. After you eat them, that fiber becomes food for the good bacteria living in your gut. When those bacteria are nourished, the gut environment can improve, And when the gut environment improves, the risk of colorectal cancer may go down. This is also a review of what we talked about in the first and second parts. When the gut environment is poor, chronic inflammation can occur. When inflammation continues in the intestines, DNA may become damaged. Cell division may increase, and the risk of cancer can rise. In other words, taking care of your gut means reducing inflammation and helping lower the risk of colorectal cancer. Now, how much is 90 g of whole grains per day? That is about 3.20 in dry weight. In everyday terms, it may be close to 2 servings of cooked brown rice, oatmeal, or another whole grain. But I know many people do not want to suddenly switch everything they eat to brown rice or whole grains. So, you can start smaller. For example, replace 1 ard of your white rice with brown rice, or choose oatmeal instead of a sugary cereal a few mornings a week. My personal recommendation is barley. Barley has more soluble fiber than brown rice, which makes it especially helpful as food for gut bacteria. It also contains a strong amount of fiber overall. And surprisingly, the texture is pleasant. It has a slightly chewy bite, and I find it fairly easy to eat. So, if you are wondering where to begin, please try adding barley to your meals. The fourth food group that may help lower cancer risk is cruciferous vegetables. If you are wondering what in the world are cruciferous vegetables, it is actually simple. Broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower radishes, kale, and Brussels sprouts all belong to this group. These vegetables have been getting a lot of attention in recent years. In one study, people who ate cruciferous vegetables about 5 times a week had on average about a 23% lower risk of several types of cancer, including colorectal cancer and lung cancer, compared with those who ate them the least. Now, this is still an area being studied, so we cannot say that eating broccoli will definitely prevent cancer. But vegetables like broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, and radishes are rich in fiber. And broccoli in particular is a highly nutritious vegetable with a good amount of plant-based protein. So, what makes cruciferous vegetables so special? One compound getting attention is called sulforaphane. It sounds almost like a powerful superhero name, doesn't it? Sulforaphane may help switch on detoxifying enzymes that already exist inside the body. In other words, it may help the body break down and process certain harmful substances we may take in without even realizing it. That is pretty impressive, isn't it? But there is one thing to keep in mind. Sulforaphane is somewhat sensitive to heat. So if you cook these vegetables, try not to overcook them. A light steam, a quick sauté, or adding finely chopped vegetables to soup for just a short time may help preserve more of the beneficial compounds. Eating cabbage or radishes raw in a salad can also be a good option. If you have a favorite way to eat broccoli, cabbage, cauliflower, kale, or Brussels sprouts, please share it in the comments. The fifth food that may help lower cancer risk is nuts. I may talk about nuts so often on this channel that some of you are thinking, here we go again. But when you feel a little hungry between meals, nuts really can be one of the best choices. According to a reliable review that combined multiple studies, people who ate about 0.7 ounces of nuts per day, such as almonds or walnuts, had about a 10% lower overall risk of cancer compared with people who did not. The decrease was especially seen in cancers of the digestive system, such as colorectal cancer and pancreatic cancer. So why are nuts helpful? Once again, the key is their anti-inflammatory effect. When inflammation is reduced, cell damage may also decrease, and when there is less damage to the cells, the copy machine inside the body is less likely to make mistakes. Nuts contain many nutrients with anti-inflammatory properties, including unsaturated fats, vitamin E, and polyphenols. They are also relatively low in sugar and rich in fiber. That is why, when you want a snack, slowly eating a small handful of nuts can help you feel satisfied without reaching for something sweet. Personally, I recommend choosing unsalted, dry roasted nuts without added oil whenever possible. If your goal is to help lower cancer risk, try aiming for about 1 small handful or around 0.7 ounces per day. So, how was today's video? Today, we talked about the 5 worst unexpected lifestyle habits that may raise cancer risk. And we also introduced 5 foods that may help lower cancer risk. If this video helped you realize that even ordinary daily habits can quietly raise cancer risk, and that cancer can in some ways be connected to lifestyle, then I am truly glad. Now, do you remember the 5 foods we talked about in the second half? Please write them down, listen again, or use this video as a reminder whenever you need it. You can even use the comment section as your personal note space. Just leave one thing that surprised you today. Writing it down may help the information stay in your memory, and it may also help someone else learn from it. I would be very happy if we could keep learning together here on this channel. Your likes and comments are what motivate me to keep making these videos. So, if you found this helpful, I would truly appreciate a warm comment from you. On this channel, we will continue sharing practical knowledge about prevention, healthy aging, and how to protect your body before illness begins. In a world overflowing with information, I believe it is important to have at least one trusted place where you can learn clearly and calmly. If you do not want to miss new videos, please consider subscribing to the channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you again in the next.